Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson enters the final week of the season coming off one of his biggest games as a Seahawk. He threw for 4 touchdowns, 3 of them to DK Metcalf, as Seattle put up a 50-burger on Detroit in what is likely the climax to a very disappointing season. After the game, Wilson was last to leave the field and said, quote, "I was thinking about just what a special moment to be able to, win this game at home for our fans and for them to feel that energy again." It could be Wilson's final game at home, his last home appearance for the team, as he and the Seahawks enter what appears to be a very uncertain offseason. It was the 5th 50-point game in franchise history, and the first since 2012 when Seattle beat Buffalo 50-17 in a game that was played north of the 49th parallel in Toronto. Let's talk about those Seahawks and a season gone awry with our Brady Quinn and Will Brinson, who are appearing together on the Pick 6 podcast. Will, are you guys becoming super friends? Is this what I'm understanding now?
Yeah, Brady is we extended Brady an opportunity to be a super friend, and Brady said, "No, you dorks live in your basement. I will continue to not be one."
Okay, well, Brady, let's start with the Wilson question. It is the question heading into the offseason. The team reportedly tried to trade him to Chicago last year, but they couldn't find a deal. He's still under contract, so, there's that. But does he have a future in Seattle for you?
Well, the reality is the team might have tried to trade him, or at least had talks about it, but that all started because his agent was the one that floated that out there in the first place, that there was a list of teams he'd be looking at going to. So I think when you look at the reactions from Wilson after this game, really the things that were said in the offseason leading up to this season and just how this season has gone, you wonder if it's getting to a point where maybe Pete Carroll feels like he wants to start over, kind of similar to how he did after back-to-back Super Bowl runs, only winning one, but then moving on from really that Legion of Boom in the secondary. That defense, and then kind of transitioning and keeping Russ and trying to rebuild. It just hasn't equated to the same type of success. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't want to get to the East Coast. The New York Giants has been a team that I've floated out there for a while ago, I think for a lot of different reasons. One, they've got a roster around him that I think he could help improve because they got talented playmakers on the outside and a bad offensive line. He can fix some of those issues. He's used to playing with a bad offensive line. And then the other thing is he's been a big market. I think for a long time he's felt like he's been in the Pacific Northwest playing good football and no one's talked about him, no one's seen it. Now he's got the opportunity to go to the East Coast, get to a team like the New York Giants, and bring his wife, who's a superstar, and now you find him that power couple. At this point in time in his career, things like that start to become a little bit more important to them. So the reality is this season all went awry. As soon as he got that mallet finger, missed some games, tried to come back too soon, was the same type of player. And so really the last few games this season, but that's really what put this thing kind of on this track where I think we're going to see a breakup between Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll.
Yeah, Brady was on the Pick 6 podcast earlier this season talking about that injury because Brady knows about it very well, and correctly pointed out that even when Russell Wilson came back, he would probably struggle in his return. So give credit to Brady. Dr. Quinn, medicine man, for nailing that one with his analysis of the Russell Wilson injury. I just wanted to use the Dr. Quinn medicine man thing. On the actual Seahawks situation, I think it's kind of you either rebuild around Russell Wilson or you just rebuild entirely. And the problem with rebuilding around Russell Wilson is that you're gonna still have to do it with Pete Carroll, right? And we've seen over the last few years, even when they start to let Russ cook, they eventually snatch the spatula away and tell him to get out of the kitchen. And he struggles down the stretch. They want to run the ball too much. I think it makes a lot of sense if you want to keep Pete Carroll there and you want to keep using Pete Carroll's philosophy to try and win Super Bowls, then you trade Russell Wilson away for multiple first-round picks, which you would be able to get from him. The Giants, as Brady pointed out, would make a lot of sense, particularly in light of the fact they will have 2 first-round picks in the top 10 this year. 2 first-round picks in the top 10 plus Daniel Jones for Russell Wilson. I think that's actually kind of a fair deal for both sides.
Well, and Pete Carroll is saying all the right things. He's saying, hey, the conversations I'm having with Russell Wilson are certainly a lot different than what I'm reading in the media. So we'll just assess things as the offseason moves along. But the conversations I'm having with Russell Wilson seem to indicate that he does want to stay. All right, let's grade this team. Will, give us a grade for the Seahawks in 2021.
It didn't occur to me until 5 or 10 minutes ago that I'm filling in for Pete Prisco, and that's why I'm doing grades. And so, but I'm not going to grade like Prisco, right? Pete's a little softy. He's gotten weak in his old age. He likes to dabble in the B's and the C's because, he doesn't want to make anybody mad. Too cozy with the league insiders. I'm giving the Seahawks an F. a big fat F. You got Russell Wilson. He was mad last offseason. He said he wants to get traded, and so they try and bring him back. They get him back in the good graces, and then they go out and have this disastrous season. Russ gets hurt. He's not protected enough, and Rashad Penny breaks out in the final 4 games of his rookie contract after that first-round pick. It's just a mess of a season for the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, so Brady, what's their biggest offseason need?
Well, I mean, look, the reality is you've got the offensive line, which has constantly been an issue for him. You got a number of guys who are becoming free agents, Dwayne Brown, Brandon Shell, Ethan Posick in particular. So that's an area of need. The edge. I mean, look, this is one of the worst teams of rushing the opposing passer in the league. They're the bottom quarter of the league, 5th fewest sacks in the league. Outside of Carlos Dunlap, Rasheem Green, and Darrell Taylor, you look at this group, you go, they are not getting much production, but as you can see, Green's another guy who's going to end up being a free agent this offseason. So they're going to have to replace a lot of what they've been really trying to do. And obviously the quarterback position, not just Russell Wilson, Geno Smith's even going to become a free agent. So they've got a lot of question marks. You wonder kind of too with Bobby Wagner being there, being one of the last pieces of that Super Bowl team, if they don't potentially move on from him, let him go to maybe another contender as they try to look to rebuild. It all really hinders on what they're going to do at that quarterback spot if Russell Wilson stays or not. If he leaves, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a complete rebuild. They start moving on from some of those older pieces and just start anew.
Well, the Monday after the season concludes is typically firing day in the NFL.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.